Alright, we are live, ladies and germs. And for this edition of The Fuel, we're going to be getting into what happened last night in the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona, where the playoff field was set, and it is... Alright, we are live, ladies shit. And germs. Let's hear the shit out of me. I didn't even put the remote. I don't even know where the damn remote is. Oh, there it is. Shit. Yeah, I got it on the TV just to make sure that the stream's working all right. Make sure the quality of it is okay and all that other shit. But looks like it's all right. So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get into things. A lot to talk about here today, so let's get into it. This is The Fuel. This video is sponsored by Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend. Click on the link in the description and use the code PackerMan to save 10% on any order. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to this edition of The Fuel, where today we're going to be talking about the 2023 Coke Zero Sugar 400 from the Daytona International Speedway. Is Preece hurt? No, he was actually discharged from the hospital last night and is heading home to North Carolina. Let me see if I can find that tweet real quick. Yeah, that's one of the big things from the day, and why the episode is named Not a Good Night to Be Ryan. Because both Ryan Preece and Ryan Blaney both took hard shunts at Daytona last night. So yeah, Stewart Haas Racing says Ryan Preece is out of the hospital and on his way back to North Carolina. But yeah, for those of you that haven't seen it, one second here. What? Split capture. Man, I don't have one? That's unusual. So here's what happened with Ryan Preece last night. Look at that car fly. And you see how the roof hatch failed too. That's another point of concern. Look at that car. Like, my God, dude. Like, I saw this happen in real time last night, and I was just like, holy shit. Like, that is one of the most violent wrecks, one of the most violent barrels that I've seen in recent memory. Thankfully, it came down on all four wheels, which is a good thing, because the car actually caught on fire underneath, and for some reason, there we go. But yeah, it was overall the race wasn't bad, but that last caution ruined the finish. Well, Stage 3 overall sucked dick. Let's be completely honest here. I mean, it was all ass backwards, it felt like. I mean, stage one, yeah, the roof hatch opened while Preece was flipping. That was one thing I noticed right away when I saw the replay. There was that big gaping hole in the roof. I mean, that's going to, I guarantee you, when NASCAR, they're taking the car back to R&D for safety purposes, I guarantee you they'll be looking at that roof hatch and be wondering, what the hell happened here, you know? Because, I mean, the last thing you want is for something to get inside the car and cause, you know, some kind of injury to the driver. But very, very fortunate that Ryan Preece was not seriously injured, because, my God. I mean, let's bear in mind that these cars are traveling 190 mile an hour, and to go sideways like that, I mean, the roof flaps, the side flaps, they didn't even have a chance to deploy before that car got airborne, because it got sideways so fast. And then the number of flips that thing did, they said the official number was 10. Looked like it was a lot more than that. But my God, I mean, that was one of the most violent wrecks I've seen in recent memory. But they took, yeah, the window net detached as well. Yeah, that's the other thing. The window net detached as well. But considering how violent that was, I mean, good Lord. But they put him on a stretcher. They took him to the infield care center, and then they took him to the local hospital for further evaluation. It was just precautionary. And he was released from the hospital, I think, either late last night or early this morning. And he's on his way back home to, at the time, he was on his way back home to North Carolina. So, very good news. I know I've been kind of hard on Preece at times this year, but, I mean, that's the last thing you want to see is a violent wreck like that. So, glad that he is okay, because, man, when I saw that happen, I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, there were a couple of vicious hits. And that just goes to show you that the safety of these race cars, thank God for the advancements in safety. Yeah, I was getting to that too. Ryan Blaney's crash earlier in the race. That was another one. From where they were battling for the lead late in stage 2. It was actually the last lap of stage 2. When Ty Gibbs, who was on the outside, he gets a slight bump. It wasn't even much of a bump. But I've said before, these cars are so loose at this speed, you could turn them around with your finger. That's how loose these cars can be. And it looked like that 54 car was already loose to begin with. And Christopher Bell was just trying to give him, a little bit of a bump to get him ahead of the 12 car, and ended up spinning the 54 out. 54 clips the 12 in the right rear, and he goes straight into the outside wall. It was honestly very eerily similar to what happened to Dale Earnhardt all those years ago. But these cars, these drivers are now equipped with the Hans device. There's also the safer barriers, because I tell you what, when that car veered right into that wall, I was like, Jesus Christ, that was a vicious hit. They also softened the front ends of these cars a little bit, took out some of the bars to make it a lot more squishable, as it were, to kind of absorb more of the impact. And I think it really helped, because yeah, that was another hard hit. But that's why this episode is named what it is. Not a good night to be Ryan, because Ryan Blaney took a head-on shot into the turn 4 wall, and then Ryan Preece took the barrel roll of a lifetime down the backstretch. But those were the only 2 cautions of the day, believe it or not. Which is pretty crazy, all things considered. Marcus, I thought Ryan Preece was going to be better than the 41 car was in the last 3 seasons, and SHR in general. Well, I mean, let's be completely honest here. Stewart-Haas Racing, I mean, let's just be completely honest here. SHR is a shell of its former self. Like, it is not the team it used to be. And that might be due to the fact that Tony Stewart, I mean, he's lost a lot of interest in NASCAR as of late. I mean, he just doesn't have the passion for it that he used to. Not to mention the fact that he's got all sorts of different things that, you know, are pulling him in all sorts of directions. You know, he's got Eldor Speedway, which he owns, that he's got to, you know, run and shit. SRX, of course, you know, he's got that going on. He's got his own drag racing team now, and in fact, he's going for a championship in the, I think it's Top Fuel that he drives in. But he's actually won a couple of events, a couple of Wallies in drag racing. So he's got that going on. So yeah, SHR is just not the team that it used to be. Which is probably one of the reasons why there have been rumors going around that they may be downsizing from 4 cars to perhaps 2. I don't know if that's actually the case. That's just the rumor that's going around right now. But when you look at things, I mean, Kevin Harvick is retiring after this year. We don't know how much longer Eric Almirola is going to be around. I mean, he was going to retire, I think, at the end of last year and decided to come back for 1 more year. So we don't know what the hell he's doing. Then you consider the fact that Busch Beer, is leaving Stewart-Haas at the end of this year and is going over to Trackhouse to sponsor Chastain. So, yeah, the last couple years have not been kind to Stewart-Haas. And Marcus, I had the same thought at the beginning of this year. I thought Preece being in that 41 car, he would do a lot better in that car than Cole Custer did. But if anything, it's been more of the same. And it's honestly making me start to think that maybe it's not necessarily the drivers. I think it's the team. Because it just seems like SHR just doesn't... I mean, they just don't have it anymore, it seems like. I mean, they were one of the powerhouse teams for Ford for a long time, and then, you know, all of a sudden it seems like their productivity is falling off a cliff. And Kevin Harvick, I mean, I'm surprised he doesn't have back issues from how long he's been carrying that team over the past couple of years. But there's only so much that even he can do. You know what I mean? So there have been some rumors that they're going to downsize next year to 2 cars. Not only that, but they're also considering a switch from Ford to Chevy, is the other rumor that's going around. So whether those rumors come to pass, I don't know. But typically when we hear rumors like this, they usually are true in NASCAR, unlike other sports. So I would definitely keep an eye on that and see what happens. Because I would imagine that that's what's going to be happening at Stewart-Haas. Because, I mean, they're just not the team that they used to be. But, yeah, that's pretty much what happened with both of the Ryans last night in the Cup race. The other thing of note that came out this week is that Kurt Busch has announced his retirement from full-time racing. And, I mean, he basically said that the doctors don't think that he can get back to 100% to drive full-time. which is a shame because, I mean, yeah, Ryan Preece got out of the car. I was like, yeah, that was a crazy wreck. But when you look at a wreck like the one that put Kurt Busch on the shelf, where it just looked like a simple back into the wall, and it ended up dealing him a concussion. And his doctors had basically told him that they don't foresee, you know, him getting back to 100% to be able to get back in the car. So he gave an emotional speech this week. He had a press conference basically announcing his retirement. You know, and what a roller coaster ride of a career he had. I mean, he won the championship in 2004, then got dumped by Roush after the next season due to his DUI arrest. Landed at Penske, didn't pan out there, mainly because of his anger management issues. So he basically was stuck in backmarker cars, and I think it was at that point that he realized that he really needed to improve upon himself. Because he went through, I think he was in 4 different teams in 4 years. Bounced around for a while, finally landed at Stewart-Haas for a couple years, and actually ended up winning a Daytona 500. And then landed at 2311 Racing, which is where, unfortunately, he had that wreck last year at Pocono and qualifying, which prematurely put an end to his Cup career. And it sucks because he really should have gone out on his terms, like Harvick is this year. He should have gone out on his terms. And for it to end because of what seems like a minor wreck like that, that just sucks. So I think it's definitely a Hall of Fame career. 34 career wins. I believe that puts him top 30 all time. A championship and a Daytona 500. To me, I think that's a Hall of Fame career. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Kurt Busch is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So there you go. That's the latest scoop on all that shit. As for the race itself, the Coke Zero Sugar 400. And you want to talk about a fucking schizophrenic race. Yeah. First race was the Bristol night race. I don't remember what happened in that Bristol night race. Probably because I wasn't watching at the time. So I was still on my hiatus from it. But, anyways, as far as this race is concerned, an absolutely schizophrenic race this was. And the way they had the stage laps kind of broken up was kind of weird, because the first stage was 35 laps. So it was like a quick little hitter. Not much happened, but it wasn't anything to write home about, but it was, a quick little hitter. So, okay. Now, you would expect for things to be pretty calm in stage 2, right? To kind of get set up for what would be the craziness of stage 3. Instead, we kind of went ass backwards on this one. Because stage 2 was without question the wildest stage of the entire race. And it was also, in my opinion, the best part of the entire fucking race. Because, oh my god, dude. Like, the amount of 3 and 4 wide that was going on, especially for the race lead. I mean, this was what Daytona was in February, the Daytona 500. In fact, just to give you an idea of the difference between the 500 and this race, there were 22 overall lead changes in this race. By comparison, the Daytona 500 had 52 lead changes, so quite a drop in lead changes. Of course, I think that has to do with stage 3, which we'll talk about in a minute. 13 pure lead changes, only 2 caution flags though, which was the big one at the end of stage 2, and then of course the Ryan Preece flip. 9,686 green flag passes. I guarantee you a large majority of those occurred in stage 2, and damn near none occurred in stage 3. But like I said, we'll get to that in a minute. And then Chase Briscoe led the most laps in this race, 67 laps. Him and Eric Almirola definitely had a plan going, but my hat here. But Chase Briscoe, he was actually involved in the wreck with his teammate Preece, because it looked like Eric Jones was trying to give Preece a bump draft, and that's what caused Preece to get sideways. He actually came down for his teammate, came across his nose, and that's how Preece did the terrible tumble down the backstretch. So that pretty much ended Chase Briscoe's chance at making the playoff. And let's be completely honest here, he was just going to be a first round exit anyways. So that's how I feel about that. But anyways, hey Danny344, just doing the live review of the Cup race from last night. Just got done talking about the two Ryans and how they had their issues. So now we're getting into the race itself. Like I said, stage 1, you know, it was alright for what it was. Nothing too serious happened in this one. But Truex ended up winning stage 1, which was big for him because he was battling Hamlin for the regular season title. So winning stage 1 was a big help in making that happen. Especially since Hamlin, actually, he looked like he was going to win the stage, but then got shuffled out a little bit and actually lost some points to Truex. So that put Truex in prime position to win the regular season title and the 15 playoff points that come with it. So we had pit stops after that. Joey Logano managed to win the race off pit road, so he leads the start of stage 2. Then the craziness ensued, because we actually had a third lane open up on the far outside, and I'm thinking, huh? Usually this is just a 2-lane deal, and all of a sudden we got 3 lanes with equal strength. And what happened next was some of the best fucking racing probably of the entire year. Just 3 wide all the way back, and these guys were somehow keeping it all together. No big wrecks. At one point, they actually went 4 wide for a moment because it looked like the big wreck was going to happen. There was some contact. They went 4 wide, and it's like, oh, man. But they managed to get it back together, get it back down to 3 wide, and I think everybody breathed a sigh of relief after that one. But one thing that kind of pissed me off was NBC. I haven't had very many complaints about NBC. They usually do a damn good job, a hell of a lot better than Fox. But we're having this great fight for the race lead, and it's 3 wide all through the field. And they keep going to fucking full screen commercial breaks. Like, what in the fuck? I mean, they have to know that people are, you know, interested in watching, you know, this 3 wide racing. It's awesome racing. Why are you not going to the side-by-sides? You know, just go to the side-by-sides. I mean, if there wasn't anything going on, then fine, go to the full-screen commercial. But when there's crazy fucking shit going down with 3 wide racing for the lead, shuffling all around, you don't go to a fucking full-screen commercial in that situation. That's just stupid. Go to the side-by-side. Okay, if you want to get your ad revenue in, go ahead and do all that shit. But when there's 3 wide racing going on, especially for the race league, you don't go to a full screen commercial. I mean, you would think that's common fucking sense at this point. But yeah, it took till lap 60 for things to finally calm down a little bit. Choo-choo train starts forming, so it's like, okay, now they're starting to settle down. But then it starts ramping up again. Ryan Preece actually took the lead at one point on lap 76. Ricky Stenhouse on lap 80. Then we had green flag pit stops right around the halfway point of the race. There were like a couple big groups that came in. Hamlin was penalized for his men going over the wall too soon. And then Harrison Burton cycled back with the lead, which was a bit of a surprise to especially the people in the broadcast booth, because him and shit. Why am I forgetting his name? Why am I having a brain fart all of a sudden? God damn it. Michael McDowell, there we go. God damn. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name for a second. God. You can tell I'm not quite awake yet. But, yeah, Harrison Burton and Michael McDowell. They were they were the last two to come to pit road. They came out by themselves. You would think they would just get blown by, by everybody, right? But they actually, for the most part, stayed up front. I mean, McDowell got drop kicked to the back a little bit, but Harrison Burton actually stayed up front and cycled back with the race lead, which was a bit of a surprise. And a lot of the drivers that were at the front of this field needed a win to make it into the playoff, because at this point, points were still pretty much a factor. Daniel Suarez, Harrison Burton, Kyle Busch, they all led laps at this point. Chastain was loose as a goose, like that car was loose. Then you had Ty Gibbs running up towards the front trying to get the stage win. But then, of course, the big one happens on lap 95. As we talked about earlier, Ty Gibbs gets spun by Christopher Bell, who's trying to give him a bump draft, but the car was still loose. They actually ends up spinning Gibbs out. Ryan Blaney gets right rear hooked, not intentionally. It was just, part of the deal. Goes head on into the wall, completely destroys the car. That frickin' safer barrier buckled big time. But thankfully he was able to climb out under his own power. A lot of good cars were involved in this one. And Brad Keselowski wins stage number 2 under caution, and they would have to throw the red flag to clean up the mess. Not to mention the fact that a lot of cars were basically beached because of flat tires. Which is honestly something they need to change too, because that's kind of stupid. So we get to stage number 3, and you would absolutely think that after everything we saw in stage 2, you'd think stage 3 would be crazy, right? Yeah. I hope Brad Keselowski can snap his winless streak. It's been 88 races since his last win. Well, he was definitely good in this race, but I'm going to be talking more about RFK here in a minute. But you would think that after the craziness of stage 2, that stage 3 would be able to keep that same energy, right? Nope. Stage 3. Like, wow. I mean, you want to talk about the enjoyment factor of this race completely falling off a fucking cliff. The rear diffuser makes the cars not move after flat tires. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They really need to do something about that, because, I mean, having these cars beached because of flat tires is kind of dumb. I mean, it's something that we didn't really used to have with the old cars, so. I mean, I don't even know why they have that fucking thing on there to begin with. But it's whatever. I mean, that's just how they designed the car, so, But it's definitely clear that the car definitely needs some changes. Because, I mean, the racing at a lot of the road courses and the short tracks have not been that good this year. I mean, in fact, there was a quote from Black Flags Matter that said that the 2023 regular season was one of the best regular seasons in history. And I replied, that's debatable. And I say that because, let's be honest here, this 2023 regular season has not been one of the best in NASCAR history. Not by a fucking long shot. Because let's be completely honest here. I mean, when you look at a lot of the races this year, have not been that good. But it goes beyond that. I mean, you look at some of the off-track shit. A lot of the penalties that have been going on. You know, how NASCAR is changing the rules fucking midstream. While there's appeals going on, no less. All the injuries, you know, and all this other dumb shit that's been going on, like the Noah Gragson situation. 2023 has not been a good year for NASCAR, especially from a PR standpoint. So to call this season one of the best regular seasons in NASCAR history is incredibly disingenuous, in my opinion. Because it's been anything but. Because a lot of the race, like I said, a lot of the racing's not been that good, but it's been more the off-track shit that's really put a black eye on this season. So that's how I feel about that. But, yeah, stage 3 of this race just completely sucked all the wind out of this race's sails. I mean, at this point, as we're going into stage 3, I'm thinking to myself, if they're able to keep this kind of racing up, this probably would have gotten maybe a 9, a high 9 out of me. One of those God tier races. But nope, my opinion of this race took a massive tumble with stage 3. Like, I could not believe how fucking boring stage 3 was, especially in comparison to stage 2. Like, stage 2 was to the balls to the wall crazy. You know, and definitely, in terms of the racing, one of the best stages of the entire season. And then you look at stage 3 and it's like, what the fuck happened? I don't know. I mean, the race definitely got this ass backwards. But it had choo-choo train, and that's basically how it was for a large majority of the stage. And it made the end of this race incredibly fucking boring to watch. So, there were pit stops for fuel with 15 laps to go. Harvick stuck back with the lead. Actually, SHR cars, I mean, they had their best run of the year for sure. There were 1, 2, 3, and 5 at one point. 40 laps to go. Second pack that pitted earlier caught the first, so they were trying to get things mixed up here. Then we had our second and final caution on lap 156. Of course, that's the Ryan Preece accent that we talked about earlier. So, we now go to overtime. Whoop-de-fucking-do. But Chris Buescher gets a push to the front from his teammate and car owner Brad Keselowski. And that's basically how it ends. They ended on a green, but once the RFK cars got out front, nobody could get back around them. And Chris Buescher wins at Daytona for his third win of the year. And a very, very anticlimactic finish to the regular season. I mean, stage 3 just fucking sucked dick. And then the finish was very, very anticlimactic. But on that note, I want to talk about Chris Buescher. You want to talk about a team and a driver that is that's absolutely on fire right now, peaking at the right time. That is Chris Buescher in a nutshell. He has won 3 of the last 5 races on 3 different racetracks. He won at Richmond, he won at Michigan, and now a win at Daytona. This team, I mean, Yeah, Marcus, I feel the same way. I think this team right now, with as dialed in as they are right now, they could make it to the round of 8. I mean, they could make a deep, deep run in the playoffs this year. And I think a lot of the credit has to go to Brad Keselowski. I mean, look at what this team has transformed into since he came on board. Now, you could say that, well, his first year with the team, it's kind of a feeling out process, but I think he's been putting the pieces together, putting all the right people in the right places, and you see the difference. I mean, Keselowski managed to get in on points. He hasn't won yet. He's been close, though. But you look at Chris Buescher. I mean, before Brad Keselowski came on board as a co-owner for this team, Buescher had just the one win at Pocono. The one Pocono race that was called early because of fog. That was his only career win in the Cup Series. In fact, what a lot of people don't know about Chris Buescher is the fact that he's the 2015 Xfinity Series champion. Did you know that? Not a whole lot of people remember that. There were a lot of people thinking, why did Roush Fenway dump Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for Chris Buescher? Well, now you're starting to see why. Yeah, Ricky Stenhouse ended up winning the Daytona 500 earlier this year, but you see what Buescher has been able to do. 3 wins in the last 5 races. He's been incredibly consistent this year. Stayed out of trouble in a lot of the races. Kept his nose clean. Like, Buescher's been doing a lot of good things this year. I mean, he's what we call in the business a late bloomer. Martin Truex Jr. was the exact same way, and he eventually won a championship in 2017. And he, of course, Truex just won the regular season title, so you would think that he would be a favorite too. But Chris Buescher, yeah, I mean, right now that team is hooked up. They're focused. That's why Chris Buescher is one of my favorite drivers. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a favorite driver of mine, but he's definitely one that I have a lot of respect for because of his perseverance. Because he's been a bit of a journeyman for a lot of his career. Finally lands back at Roush, which I believe is the Xfinity team that he won his championship with in 2015. But, yeah, the 17 team is on absolute fire right now. They have all the momentum in the world. And I think that's why a lot of people are kind of pegging them as dark horse favorites to maybe make it to the championship 4. I mean, I don't know if they'll make it that far, but I see them having a deep, deep run in the playoffs this year. Like, they are that dialed in right now. And it is absolutely amazing the turnaround that RFK has seen in the last 2 seasons. Absolutely incredible. And, I mean, they went from, basically being an afterthought to now all of a sudden having both of their cars in the playoffs. With Buescher being considered a potential championship favorite. I would consider that one hell of a turnaround. That's for damn sure. But, anywho, that's going to do it for this review. We're into the final 10 races, boys. We're in the closing leg of this season. Next week is Labor Day weekend, and of course that means it's time for the Southern 500. First race of the playoffs. And kind of see how everything plays out from there. There's a lot of drivers going in, just basically just limped into the playoffs, and then there are some like Chris Buescher, like I said, Martin Truex Jr., William Byron. Those guys are going to be the ones to watch as we get into this playoff run. But as for my final rating for this race, I mean, overall, it was a solid race. Stage 2 absolutely fucking rocked. I mean, it rocked your socks off. I mean, the crazy amount of racing we saw on that second stage was absolutely incredible. Which is why stage 3 was such a fucking letdown. Like, oh my god, dude. I mean, it was basically, you know, the choo-choo express, that entire third stage, and and the quality of the race just completely fell off a fucking cliff. And that finish, god, you want to talk about an anticlimactic finish to the regular season? There you go. But despite that, there wasn't that many cautions, although the 2 cautions we did have were pretty brutal, to say the least, with Ryan Preece and Ryan Blaney taking huge shunts. Thankfully, they're both okay. But other than that, it was a solid race overall. So my final rating for the Coke Zero Sugar 400 is a 7 out of 10. But all I can think about is what could have been. Excuse me. Got some dry throat here. That's what happens when you do these reviews. You talk a lot and then you get a dry throat and then you gotta take drinks. But that's going to do it for this edition of The Fuel. There's actually one more race going on today. The Truck Series is on at 4 o'clock Eastern. So there will be one more review later on today. It'll probably be a pre-recorded review though. But they're at Milwaukee. It's a 175 lap race at Milwaukee. So they're already in the midst of their playoffs. This is the second round. So that'll come later on tonight. Either that or the review will be posted tomorrow. I don't know. I don't really know yet. We'll see. But yeah, that is going to do it for this edition of The Fuel. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. See you later. And of course, like a fucking dummy, I forgot to set the race results and points screen. Knew I was forgetting something. So let's try this again. Once more with feeling. I'll see you next time. Fuck! I'll see you next time on this edition of The Field. Till then, take it easy. What's happening, ladies and germs? Thank you for watching tonight's video. If you're interested in sponsoring the channel, there is a link to my Patreon down in the description box below. Otherwise, hit like and subscribe if you want to continue watching great content like you saw today. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out.